everyone and welcome back. For today's video, I'm going to be walking you through my USMLE Step 1 study methods, my resources, my schedule, and everything that needs to be done before the exam. So just as a disclaimer, I have not taken the exam yet myself, but I have been speaking to other people who have taken the exam, and together we've compiled some tips and tricks that would be best for me to implement, but also that I can give to you guys to be successful on this exam. I'm going to try and keep this video as succinct as possible, so let's get started. Before I start sharing the resources that I've used, I do want to say that the most important thing is how you are preparing while you're in medical school. So for me, I made it very important that I honored all of the blocks in my didactics, and that was giving me a great foundation so that when I go into USMLE studying, I'm not feeling so overwhelmed and I have that information that's already in my head. So if you can do anything to start yourself off for success, it is do your best that you can in your didactics. This is going to make a huge difference. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I will break down the resources that I've used, and I will tell you guys how I'm using them and when I'm using them. My very first resource that I use is Anki. I love Anki. I think that it is a great resource, and if you haven't seen my short on the forgetting curve, definitely check that out, and it'll explain to you why I use Anki and why I feel like it's so important. Following that, I've used Boards and Beyond, Pathoma, Sketchy, First Aid, and I plan to use Pixorize, but I have not used it yet. So let me break down how I'm using these. At the very beginning of my USMLE studying, what I've been doing is I have been going through the Boards and Beyond's videos, and I've been annotating it into this Step 1 First Aid book. I really enjoy using this First Aid book. It's very high yield. It's got all of the information that you need in it, but not a lot of the explanation. So if you don't have the base knowledge, this isn't really gonna help you at the beginning. And I know a lot of people don't use it right away. I prefer to annotate it so that I can have all of the information I'm learning in one spot. So taking that information from Boards and Beyond and adding it into here, there's actually a lot of additional information that I wanted to add in here. So I'm glad that I can do that, and I use my colored pens because it's just so pretty. Like, look at this. Look how pretty it is. To get all that, but look at all of that annotating. Like, I don't want you to believe that the First Aid book is like a one-stop shop for everything, because for me it just wasn't, but it is an excellent resource to have. So I am adding quite a bit of stuff in here. Make sure that you're pulling from other resources. I do want to say, I know that these resources are expensive, but you are investing in your future and your education, and I think that it is very important. So try and find the resources that work for you. You don't need to get every resource that's out there. I will explain why I'm using so many. Definitely pick the ones that work for you and go from there. For Pathoma, I've been using it to go through my pathology learning, and I've been doing the corresponding Anki cards for that. It has provided me so much extra help when it comes to pathology, and I think that it is one of the most important resources because the USMLE exam is so much pathology. I think it's like 60% pathology. Let me see. This book I'm using is the 2023 book, so this might have changed, but as you can see at the front here, they break down how much of the exam is what subject. So you can see here that pathology is the largest part of the exam, anywhere from 44 to 50%. If you can just get one thing, I would say get the First Aid or try and get the Pathoma as well. It is one of the more comprehensive study tools that I think is going to make a huge difference in your studying. So with Anki, I've been doing the Pathoma videos and then the corresponding Anki cards. For Sketchy, I've been using it for micro and farm, but I've also heard that it's okay for Path. I personally haven't used it for Path, but if you want to, then maybe this is a good substitute for you. You can get everything in one. Sketchy is a platform where they make sketches or fun cartoons out of the microbiology and the pharmacology concepts to help you understand all of these new words that you've never seen before and how the medications and the microbes work. Personally, what I did was I copied it onto my iPad, took a screenshot at the very end of the video, and then as I went through the video, I'm annotating what parts of that sketch correspond to what features of the microbe. As you can see, I have 2 per page and I've gone through quite a bit of these, and this is honestly what I found to be the most effective when studying Sketchy. I actually went through and watched the videos and I was so confused afterwards. There were things that I was forgetting, so actually taking this screenshot and annotating it has helped me so much with my memory and my retention. And then obviously doing those Anki cards as well is really important. Pixorize, like I said, I have not used yet, but I have heard that it's good for the biochem and the immunology portion of the exam, so maybe just refreshing with those. We'll see if I actually get to that, but I just wanted to include that so you guys know that you have options for biochem and immunology as well. The question banks that I will look into using are USMLE RX, UWorld, and AMBOSS. I'm not going to use all three of these question banks. If anything, I'm going to try and use two of them. I know that UWorld is going to definitely be in there, so it's either USMLE RX or AMBOSS. It seems like something that I want to consider a little bit more before I decide 100%. But now that we're getting into question banks, I will tell you kind of how I'm structuring my study. My school has a transition year between our didactics and our rotations. I know a lot of schools don't do that. They just have the didactics and go straight into rotations. So if your school is not like this, I can give you a different timeline, and most of it will just be like pre-dedicated versus dedicated for your timeline. But for my timeline, it's a little different. I am now finishing up my last year of didactics. When I say my schedule is a little different, I will differentiate between pre-dedicated and dedicated. That will be my transition year versus my dedicated. My plan in my pre-dedicated or before my transitional year is to have a first pass done of Boards and Beyond, all of the Anki cards associated, Sketchy, all of the Anki cards, Pathoma, all of those Anki cards, the first aid book, and then maybe Pixorize if I choose to use it. That's quite a lot of information, but this time is when you want the information to be heavy. You want it to come in during your pre-dedicated because you don't want to be learning additional things. So for me, I'm going to try and break it up and get as much of this information in before my transitional year. Now, that sounds like super early for me to write this exam, and it kind of is, but there's a reason why I'm doing it like that. I want to be able to start those question banks as soon as possible, either by this summer or by September of my transitional year, which is still in pre-dedicated for those who are pre-dedicated versus dedicated. Those question banks are going to make the biggest difference when it comes to understanding the content and actually implementing it, test taking, and finding the correct ways to decipher the questions and answer them properly, because at the end of the day, the question is very difficult, but the answer is there. Understanding how the USMLE works and how the exam is structured and the questions are structured is half of the exam. So I'm going to be doing at least a first pass, if not a pass and a half, by the September of my transitional year. Then during my transitional year, when I'm doing research and I'm in rotations, I'm going to be coming home and doing question banks. And when I get those questions wrong, I'm going to be making Anki cards or making notes on what I got wrong, revisiting those concepts. My goal is to go through all of the resources at least twice, including the question banks. Now, some of you might be thinking, why would you do that? You have just seen those questions, so they might come back up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate question banks, and I'm also going to use them on a rolling basis. So if I do find that the questions are really fresh in my memory, then I'll use a different question bank because, like I said, there were 3 ones that I was thinking about, so that is something I'll decide when I get closer to. But the overall recommendation for people who have taken this exam already is to do those question banks more than once. When we enter dedicated, this is when it's going to look a lot like MCAT studying. So for me, I'm going to be going into 9 to 10 hour days of studying, and I'm going to do a practice exam once every week. The practice exams that I'm going to use are all of the MBME exams, the UWorld 1, the UWorld 2, the Free 120, and my school actually gives us a couple practice exams that I will use as well. The last one I'm going to do is probably the Free 120. Everybody says to do that one last. A lot of people, though, don't really love their score on that exam, so I don't know if I'll do that within the last week or the last 2 weeks. I have heard that UWorld 2 is the most representative, so definitely going to do that one towards the end so I have a better idea of what my exam score is going to be. Step 1 is now pass or fail. When you think about it in the way of longevity, you have step 2 that comes right afterwards, and you have about 70% overlap. Having that base knowledge and really trying to do as well as you can, even though it's just a pass, is the mentality that you want to keep through this study session, because again, you want to front load all of this learning. Anything you can do now to make future you's life easier, because when you're rotating, it's going to get really hectic and you're going to be thanking yourself. Some of the advice I want to leave you guys with is, number 1, start early. Do not wait until the last minute to do this exam and then you have to move it or you don't feel confident. You do not want to fail on that first try. Second of all, find study habits and things that work for you. don't just take what I've said and copy it absolutely completely if those things don't work for you. Again, I have been talking to people who have taken the exam and this is what they suggest as well, and we've tweaked my schedule. But at the end of the day, it is going to come down to what works best for me, and these things might not work for you. So take it with a grain of salt and make the schedule your own. And finally, I think the thing that's really getting me through studying is keeping on top of my exercise. This desk is actually a sit-stand desk. I also have a walking pad that was probably my best purchase that I have made in medical school and totally worth it. Doing those Anki cards on the walking pad has made a world of a difference in my body aches and pains. And finally, maintain your mental health through this period. It is a long and stressful marathon. It is not a sprint. Please be kind to yourself. Make sure you are taking care of yourself and keeping up with your health. Feed yourself whole foods. Go to exercise. Go to see your friends. Take some time away from studying. Your life is not dependent on this exam. It can feel like that, and I know that the catastrophic thinking of if this exam doesn't go well can weigh on you so heavily. Please allow yourself to have a little bit of air and understanding for yourself and how difficult studying for this exam is. I wish you guys all the best, and remember that you guys are so strong and capable. You've made it to the point where you're even taking this exam, and that is such an amazing accomplishment, and I don't want you to lose sight of that. So I'm gonna end this here, but thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, take care of yourself, stay well, stay healthy, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.